Blog Talk Radio.
Hey guys, this is Those Guys with your host, Matt Marrero, along with your other host,
Tristan Walter.
I think it's crazy, okay, that in the year 2017, we are going to be talking about King Kong versus Godzilla, right, because that's what we're talking about. And I also feel like we're being a little bit sacrilegious because I feel bad that we both have a somewhat consenting opinion on the fact that it wasn't very good. Now, there are some parts of it that I really like, but I have to say that I am kind of sad that it's funny. I know it's getting remade, right, in a few years, but that's on American soil. Not that I'm just going to sit here and say that it doesn't count, because I know it does, obviously. They paid Toho money for Godzilla, so it counts. But I would have preferred some Japanese either remake or sequel before we got the effects that we have today. Because now with these effects, it's like before you even look at the story, everyone's just going to jump and say that the new one is better than this one. And I don't think from an effects standpoint I want to sit there and be like, well, that one's clearly better. It's not about the effects at all, really. It's about the characters. And it's about the story itself and how I wasn't a big fan of how it was crafted. The effects, I'll still take.
Oh yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Although I would point out that compared to the other two Godzilla movies that we've watched, it seems as though it's still models and toy tanks and getting melted and stuff like that, and that's cool, but it seems in this one, Kong versus Godzilla, that even that, even just the budget for that seems to have taken a hit, because everything
I disagree.
Feels... I don't know. It really feels like a model this time. I feel like in the others, it was a little more, I don't know, done a little bit better in the sense that it was a little more believable instead of seeing it on screen and going, that's a model, immediately.
Yeah, no,
that's just me.
Here's the thing. I don't think that the budget is what took a hit. For me personally, when I look at it, it's more so that they were a bit too ambitious.
Right.
So, in other words, when you make the first movie in black and white, by the way, which does help hide certain things. In black and white,
yeah, that's true.
With just Godzilla. with just Godzilla, and with only a few characters. I feel like you kind of have a lot of room to play with only them, and that's all you have to do. Here, they had to get a lot of extras, and we'll discuss the extras in a moment. You had to get a lot of extras. Yeah, you had to do a lot of different scenes, with the trains, and and you kind of had to get both Godzilla and King Kong. That's the thing. If you had just gotten Godzilla, I do think that things may have been a little bit different. But now you had to work with Kong as well. So I do think that it's not so much that the budget took a hit. I'll look at the budget just to make sure, but I don't think it was a budgetary issue. It's more so of where it all has to go now.
Right.
And all the people they have to hire, all the effects they have to use, all the things that they have to do. I mean, they also got that octopus was probably not cheap at all.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. So that's how I look at it. Personally, I think granted, I'm not saying that the effects didn't suffer at certain points. I'll give you that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think also the green screen they had to use. I'm not going to say they didn't use green screen in the earlier Godzilla movies. I'm pretty sure they used it in Raids again. But the thing is, here you really had to use a lot of or in their heads, they had to use a lot of green screen. And that was noticeable. Most definitely.
Right.
Yeah. But so how do you feel about them kind of reworking the origins, in a way, of Godzilla and King Kong?
Well, all right. How do you mean exactly, reworking the origins? It almost felt like they kind of picked up where they left off. I mean, Kong's island is a little more here it is. instead of whereas in Kong's movie it was a little more ambiguous.
Mhm. Well, because for me, here's the thing. Remember that in the reason why it's here's the funny thing, right? It feels like they talk about either Kong, but definitely Godzilla, as if they've seen them before.
Right.
The problem is that in some ways they talk about like they've never seen them, like they've seen them before. In other ways they talk about them as if they've never seen them before. And the reason why the King Kong thing is obviously different is because Kong died in 1933's movie.
True.
So that's probably why they're, unless there's like just multiple Kongs on the island.
There's he must have came up from an undersea cavern underneath the island and then came up onto the island to replace the old God Kong.
Oh, I was just like, that's American God Kong. That's Asian God Kong.
Right. Oh.
Go over to Bollywood to see Hindi God Kong. Like that's just what I. Like that's what I was just assuming. No,
it's Kong's cousin.
It's Kong's cousin. I'm just his cousin,
boy.
King. Wait, you're King? No, I'm Kong King. I don't care.
Oh my
Enough
God.
about this bit. Anyway, I just no, but really, it was it was a situation where Kong. That's what I'm saying. His origin was sort of reworked, and then depending on what version you watch, either the English dub or because the English dub did have some added scenes in, or the original Japanese. It's very interesting because in the English version, they explain Kong, not just Kong, but they explain Godzilla more, as if people don't know who Godzilla is, despite the fact that, granted, it's still 1963, so it's not like you can Google the fucking thing. But, Godzilla still had 2 movies. Technically 1, because the other one was fucking redubbed and repurposed as something different. But still, the point is, Tristan, is in the American version, they kind of want to explain Godzilla a little bit more in a way that it was like, he's a dinosaur, kind of like how they did it in the second film, and even in the first one a little bit, in both versions of the first one. But when it came to the Japanese side with Godzilla, I just didn't know. That's the one reason why I'm a little frustrated with the story, because in Godzilla Raids Again, they did trap him in ice, right?
Yes.
So then you would think, oh no, he's just trapped in ice like he used to be. But there's also the way they speak of Godzilla, in some ways, it feels like they've never seen him before.
Yeah.
Maybe that's more with the explanation in the American version then, but it feels like everyone's like some people are just like, oh yeah, no, Godzilla. Other ones are like, who? And I'm so confused because I'm like, the one that terrorized the cities a few years back, twice.
Who?
That one. Yeah. But you know what I mean, right?
Yeah. Oh, and I loved story time with the American scientist coming in, having the book of dinosaurs. It's like, and this is a Tyrannosaurus, and we think Godzilla is a cross between a Tyrannosaurus and a Stegosaurus, which is also known as the plated dinosaur.
How did that feel for you?
Is this show? It felt like show and tell for me, except it was me in first grade. And it's like,
what if you gave that presentation in first grade? How would your teacher have graded you?
Probably well, but if I had included the whole Godzilla bit, probably poorly. But
that's what I meant. That's what I meant. Yes.
Then probably poorly. If I stuck to just the dinosaurs, then it would have been fine probably. But as soon as you throw Godzilla in there, and that Godzilla is a wacky Franken hookup between a T-Rex and a Stegosaurus, which didn't even live in the same time period.
Don't worry about Franken mashups. We'll get Frankenstein later, Tristan.
I know. Oh no. Oh geez.
Wait, you know that I'm not kidding,
Godzilla versus
right?
Frankenstein. I know you're not kidding.
Wait. Yeah, no, they were going to do Frankenstein versus Godzilla. Then that got transitioned into Frankenstein takes over the world. Or Frankenstein conquers the world. Yeah, and then it's great. We might do that one day. But right now we're going on this Godzilla train, but we might do that one day.
I blocked it out of my mind, and now it's back.
Have you even seen the movie?
No. But
yeah, that's what I thought.
I'm pretty sure my father has at some point, or at least he knew of it because he told me about it at one point. And I was staring at him. I'm like, Dad, I'm going to be real with you right now. Are you shitting me? He's like, nope. I wish I was.
Anyway, so now here's the thing, right? So your dad also doesn't like this movie, which is kind of funny. I'm wondering, I don't remember if my dad said the same thing or not. I am wondering if this is just one of those movies that did well despite itself.
I guess so, because...
Well, no, I'm not, well, no, again, I don't want to sit here and say that the entire fan base doesn't like it, right? I mean, it's a staple. Yeah. It's a staple in, tokusatsu movies. Like, it's a staple in, like, giant monster movies. But, or, like, well, it's not necessarily a staple, but, like, it is historic. And it helped it helped bring about the staple of monster fight monster to such a large scale. Because, so really, it was very interesting because, like, a movie, I mean, granted, of course, it happened in King Kong as well, but, like, in terms of, in Japan, this was a big movie where they did that, and they definitely took two titans to do it. It's really sad because I really appreciate the premise a lot, and I love it to death, and just the idea that, like, because obviously it's like, yes, the same company, not for King Kong, but for, like, Mothra and Ghidorah and stuff like that, the same company is making them in the same way they're making Godzilla. So, of course, it's like a sponsored crossover. But just the idea of having all these crossovers, especially someone who, I think I've told everyone on the show before, because we've done a lot of these, all of those guys on the radio podcasts that we've done, not just the ones, specific shows. I was saying that pretty sure I mentioned in the past how much I love crossovers. Like, I don't know why, but, like, as a kid, whenever I would, like, watch a Marvel show and it'd be like, yeah, that's Spider-Man, and all of a sudden it's like, Punisher's there, or who else? Not the Fantastic Four, sadly, Tears, but, like, Daredevil or someone like that, I'd be like, oh my, or X-Men characters, I would just freak the fuck out because I would sit there and think that it is so cool that these characters are able to coexist in the same universe. So being able to have King Kong versus Godzilla is a really cool concept. I think it just sucks that they had to also put in their origins, or at least for King Kong's, in the same movie, because I do think that held it back.
Yeah.
So the one thing I'll say about the newest movie that might actually make it better than this one, and this is just speculation, of course, is because of the fact that just like Marvel movies, they didn't have to introduce any of the four, Avengers in the Avengers film. They already had introduced them in their prior films.
In their own movie.
And then, boom. Yeah.
There we go.
So I do think that having to introduce Kong held the movie back a little bit.
Yeah.
Even though I know in Japan they're huge fans of their monsters having characters. I don't want to say more so than the humans, but like definitely they put emphasis on the monsters having a character of their own, not just being people in suits punching each other. Like there actually being a distinction. Like, oh, this one does it this way, this one does it that way, right? Giving these monsters life. Something that I think in America we don't do as much. Like we don't think of it that way, which is kind of sad. But my point is this. My point is that even though you want the monsters to have that kind of character, I would definitely prefer for the humans to as well. And I'm not going to say that they didn't have characters. Like, obviously, like, they had their own personalities. But it felt like nothing was really going on with them in a way. Like, versus the first movie where it was kind of like, these two are trying to get married, but then the apocalypse is raining down upon them. Yeah. They love each other.
Yeah.
But the apocalypse, right? Even in the second movie, where it's just like, oh, no, my friend died. And I was like, well, that's sad.
Yeah.
Like, at least there was something to make you go like, ooh, that hurt. Even if you weren't a big fan of it, like, it was like, ooh, that hurt. Here, they tried to replicate that duo again, like that same trifecta of like, oh, here is girl, right? Here is woman. She engaged to this guy. Then here is either, well, in this case it was her brother. So it's not always the brother necessarily. But, like, still, like, here is her brother. He is the goof.
Yeah.
Yeah. Although it's funny how they changed, like, they were like, oh, and husband husband guy, he also brilliant scientist, or at least he able to make pretty cool thread.
That we'll never speak of again. Although,
yes,
did they use that for
when they had
they used it for the balloons, right?
Yes, that's why I was very happy because when they first spoke of it, I was like, the fuck? Are you guys trying to show off how cool the special effects are? Because that's cool. And then, like, an hour later, it was like, what are we going to use to transport Kong? And they bring out the thread, and I'm like, it's still flimsy, but you brought it up for a reason.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah, so, it's really sad because I really wish they would have been able to make another one of these because I really wanted to enjoy this movie, and I know that you, as a bigger giant monster fan than you really wanted to enjoy this movie.
Yeah, it's just...
Now, question, so you never saw it as a kid. I would assume this is the movie that your dad would have been like, look, I don't like it, but here you go, kid. Have fun.
No, I didn't see this one as a kid.
I'm actually shocked to hear that, because I'm pretty sure I did in some form or other. I actually have a VHS tape at my house I got at a thrift store. It's actually the original dubbed King Kong versus Godzilla. I've shown it to you, haven't I?
You might have,
Haven't I shown it to you or no? Yeah, I'm pretty sure I did. I'm going to find it in the rubble. That is my shelf.
Oh, geez.
It's funny. You've been to my house. You're like, oh, he's never going to. We might lose him on the show, kids.
Because usually the movies that we would end up watching, like, it would come on TV at some point, like, like on the old Sci-Fi, and it'd be like, my dad would be like, oh, there's a Godzilla movie on, and I'd be like, yay, and we'd sit down and watch it.
Right. But, all right, fair enough. Just curious because,
I think the first Godzilla movie that I actually, got to see for myself, in a theater, was Godzilla 2000.
Oh.
And I love the shit out of that. Or, well, okay, I saw the one in 98. I saw that one. I don't really
I was wondering, I was like,
that's
so
an
we not going to
made Godzilla.
Yeah,
I'm not going to talk about it, Matt. No.
Tristan was traumatized by
all
Zilla.
Right, oh god, it's a different movie. They did different stuff. I liked it when it came out. It's okay. It's not terrible. It's okay. I'll just say that. That's a different podcast, Matt.
Yeah, the one that I have is from 1987.
Right.
The VHS tape that I found. So I'll probably promote that. I'll probably show some of the guys, show anyone who wants to look at this off on the Facebook or just general social media. I'll just be like, look at this thing. Anyway, so which I'll mention later on in the show. But yeah, I wish I could say that I like this movie. And it's sad, too, because, not that I came into it with hype, because I understood, I understood from what we had seen from the other two films that, we were going to get standard 1963 tokusatsu. By the way, here's something really funny, right? This was the movie that made them sit there and think, oh, we should make a franchise off of Godzilla. Now, granted, the movie made a lot of money.
Right.
It made a fuck ton of money. So it makes sense, and I'll give you the numbers in a second. But it makes sense, of course, this is the movie. But it's just so funny to me that, you made the first movie, which could have been easily a standalone, don't ever go back to it. Then you make another one a year later.
Right.
Just out of nowhere. I'm not out of nowhere, but in my opinion, after the way the first one ended, you have to make a lot of money to be like, yeah, let's just give that thing a random sequel. Just give it a sequel a year later. Just pump it out. And then, all of a sudden, granted, yes, there was a nice gap, right, from 1956 to 1963. But it's just funny how they were like, all right, I guess we're going to wrap this up. Oh, hey, you want to throw that one against God? Here's the reason why, right, Tristan? You would think, to me anyway, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's because of just the way time looks upon this now, right? Hindsight's 20/20. But to me, King Kong is big. Even in 1963, he was big. So for me to sit here and see Toho be like, yeah, we're going to put King Kong up against Godzilla. In my head, I'm like, then you must think highly of Godzilla.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, even though, like, maybe they, like, because if you're, I guess you could say, oh, they thought of it as a test. But still, in my head, it's like, if you're putting King Kong against Godzilla, it's very interesting that this was the movie. Like, oh, wow, it did well. I guess we're going to make Godzilla a franchise. And you're kind of sitting back like, what were you thinking about before? You put him up against, King Kong. Were you expecting it to be like, that performed moderately. All right, anyway, who cares? See what I'm saying? Like, I know hindsight, so we're looking at this with glasses where both King Kong and Godzilla are fucking huge, right?
Yeah.
But I don't get it. Like, just the idea that, like, it was this movie that was just like, well, we have to make it into a franchise now. It was like, so what were you thinking about with the other two? Just random Toku films. Well, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it just feels for me that, like, as much as I want this to be a good matchup, it's really not, because, okay, I'm gonna show that I've picked a side here, but I'm sorry. If you put up a giant ape against a radioactive lizard, who's gonna win? I'm sorry.
The ape.
But I will murder you in your sleep.
I'm fucking sorry. The ape has arms, you piece of shit.
The lizard has radioactive fire breath.
Yeah, and what happens when he's looking the other way? He can't turn his head. When he swipes his tail, Kong grabs his tail and slams him back and forth, back and forth. The only problem with Kong, which is I'm happy that they gave him this in the movie, he has very long arms. So
yeah.
He's not as coordinated as you think. He tripped at one point, and I was like, oh, well, I think Godzilla might have this one in the bag by standing.
He had a little too much berry juice before he got to Hokkaido.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Hokkaido. Hokkaido.
Oh.
So look,
God.
I'm going to be real with you guys, right? I mess up names of Japanese cities and places. Actually, because of what Pokemon did to me with Kanto, it's actually Kanto. Did not know that. So I've been calling it like the Kanto region because, Pokemon and everything. But it's the Kanto region of Japan, not Kanto. But like I know it's 1963, but like, oh my God, could you have found a Japanese? And granted, maybe there was different, it's been pronounced differently throughout time, maybe. But like at the same time, I fucking look at the Japanese dub and they're like Hokkaido, and I'm like, okay. And all of a sudden it's like Hokka. What was it in the English dub? I can't even try to pronounce it wrong. That's how my brain is telling me to stop. Hokkaido.
Yeah, pretty much. I can't.
Yeah. Ugh. God, that hurt me physically. Anyway,
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so I want to look at the numbers because again, this movie did very well. Yeah, the budget was 5 million yen. Do you want to know what it made at the box office?
Go ahead.
350 million yen. Oh, shit. And you want to know, so like, here's what's funny too. 200,000 was its U.S. Budget, because of course, again, the movie was dubbed into English, and also new scenes were filmed in a matter of 3 days. Funnily enough. Oh, by the way, something that I found really funny too. The Americans, all those were filmed in the Japanese version. They're not all, but most of the American militaries. No, because I was sitting there watching, because I watched the dub first, so. Just to get the bad out of the way. And I watched the dub, and I'm like, oh, they filmed those scenes too. And then I'm watching the Japanese version, and I'm like, wait, no. Those are Japanese Americans who just look American. It was very interesting.
Anyway, I kind of find it funny that it's the Americans that stumble upon the quote-unquote Japanese monster, and it's the Japanese that stumble across the quote-unquote American monster. Granted, he was in an island.
That was
in
a good thought.
Pacific, but it's like, yeah, I thought that was interesting.
but that was nice. That was a nice twist where, like, it's kind of like, oh, both sides see the other side. Anyway,
I
but still, I want to mention
that
What?
No, just wanted to say, like, I believe, the American sub, like, running into the glacier that Godzilla is in was a bit more believable than the Japanese pharmaceutical company going for a sponsor as a giant monster.
We're gonna discuss. Yeah, we're gonna discuss that in a moment. Yeah. I just want to mention the budget for a bit. The budget for the U.S. version, $200,000.
Right.
It made $1.25 million in the box office.
Well,
yeah, there's a reason why Toho looked at this and was like, "Our man, Godzilla.
We're making more of these."
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I imagine them doing the double fingers at Godzilla and Godzilla doing the same thing back. It's like, Godzilla, my man. Yeah, buddy. I don't know what the fuck he said.
Just roars again.
Sir, what did Godzilla just...
What? Contract?
Sir,
wait,
what did Godzilla... What? What's your joke, Tristan? Would you like to say your joke before I say mine?
No, just go.
No, I was like, sir, what did Godzilla just say? He's saying whatever the fuck he wants to. He's printing us money. Now you tell your jokes, Tristan.
No, I don't want to.
This is what we're doing at this point. You tell your joke, Tristan.
What are we, Kong and Godzilla?
Yes. That's just how it works. Anyway, by the way, I would like to add, so looking at the budgets for both films, right? $5 million was the budget for Kong versus Godzilla, and all right, never mind. You may have a point. Actually, everyone, Tristan has a point. The original Godzilla movie, the budget was $62 million. Never mind. Tristan wins this round. And then Godzilla Raids Again, the budget was... Yeah, the budget for the movie, for the original Godzilla.
Yes. Oh, okay, yes. Right.
Yeah, $62 million. And the original one for King Kong versus Godzilla, the original, like, the Japanese budget, is $5 million.
Right.
Even the budget for... Well, it's funny. The budget for Godzilla Raids Again, it says that it's $800,000. I don't know what that means. If that's in, it shows USD, so I think it's just referring to like US dollars, not, the original.
Right.
But so we can't talk about Godzilla Raids Again right now in terms of budget. But when it comes to King Kong versus Godzilla and the original Godzilla, it's actually or Gojira. It is interesting that one has such a larger budget. Because I got to be real with you, man. I know you and I sat there and we were like, no, but that was so good and that was so good. Yes, but I just thought that it was just a budget split so many different ways because, again, you have King Kong and Godzilla. So I guess it was not only a shoestring budget of $5 million, which sounds like a lot, but remember currencies get...
Yeah.
No, because it's funny.
True.
It sounds like a lot, right? Like, it sounds like a lot to Americans. Like, what do you mean $5 million? Especially 1963. No, but it's the currency's different. Now, granted,
right, yeah.
So it's not like it's $5 million the way we think of $5 million.
$5 million.
Also, the fact that, again, in 1956 or 1955, technically, the original was like $64 million.
Yeah.
So even though it's like, Matt, $5 million isn't like our million. Yes, but 64 of them is still pretty damn good for that movie. So the fact that the budget was really cut for this film, you can tell.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I apologize for that. You're correct. You can definitely tell that there were budgetary concerns, thread-related budgetary concerns.
Because, I mean, I'm sorry, but I feel like they could have, like, obviously, budget constraints, whatever you want to peg it down to, but I feel like they could have done a little bit of touch-up on Kong's face. Because, goodness. I mean, even Godzilla, the first time he pops out, I don't know, maybe it was just me and it was just a weird angle, but it felt like looking at him, like, straight on, like his face, like, down his snout, it's like, it one eye seemed like off from the other. like his face was slanted on one side, and then but for the rest of the movie you kind of usually see him sideways. So then I'm like, oh, well, no, he looks fine. But like from straight on, it's like, oh boy.
You know, I try to judge monsters on how they fight, not on how they look. But, you know, that just might be just kind of like a reflection of who we are as people. But anyway,
you know, you're the host, and I'm the shithead that you ask on to be to be the foil to the awesomeness that Matt Marrero is.
Right? No, I'm going to be real with you. You're 100% correct. Looking at him dead on, it's not a flattering angle.
Right. And I'm not trying to like nitpick. It's just something that I observed. It's like I'm not going to say it's like, yeah, you know, sometimes it's difficult. It is still a rubber suit. Like I get it. But
it's a lot easier.
More Kong in general.
Okay. Well, I'm just saying that I think it's better showing him and him being Godzilla from like the left or the right, like profile, instead of straight on, because I just don't think it's ever going to look flattering to do that. I don't care what suit you make, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And I know I haven't seen every single interpretation, I know, but I feel like it doesn't matter what suit you make, if it's unless the snout is like protruding and not so much flat, I'm just not a big fan of, you know, like him coming down like that. I feel like it's very hard to make that work, especially it's also in color and for a prolonged period of time, and his head wasn't submerged. So there's a bunch of things that they didn't really have, like they didn't use to hide him. Like, so when he's like in color like that, it's just kind of like, ooh. Also would like to mention, color movie, 1963, pretty cool. Like, in terms of like never being able to see Godzilla in color before this, holy shit.
Right.
Right? So, like, that's one, I think, interesting fact that, like, we're kind of neglecting. Like, the fact that, oh, man, you know, not only is Godzilla in color now, but the suit is definitely one that is very iconic, and I want to hear your take on the suit. So how did you feel about Godzilla's design in this movie compared to the first two?
I mean, like I said, other than the face, like from the straight on, like I thought the suit was a decent enough job.
You just weren't a fan of Kong's.
Yeah. I don't know. It just didn't do it for me.
It's fine. I liked it, but I'll because I have the movie playing in the background while we do the show, I'll be able to see it again and definitely try to, you know, see what you're referring to, because I do want to, like, not that I want to agree with you, but I want to see where you're coming from. I just can't think of it right now, because in my head, most of the time it felt like the suit was good. Honestly, the best suit, in my opinion, and I'm being serious here, was that fucking creepy-ass octopus. Like, they just made it, no, because here's the thing, right? They just made it look good. Now, I think an octopus was a bad choice in general.
Right.
I think he was a bad choice because you want to show off how Kong can fight. And yeah, you might be saying, oh, not you personally, Tristan, but like in general, someone might say, oh, but it's a smarter enemy. So Kong looks smarter by being it instead of just going punchy, punchy, punchy. Yes, but we're also in a movie where I want to see punchy, punchy, punchy. And we just kind of got we got Kong realizing like, wait a minute, if I keep this octopus on my head, I am très chic. So like, you know, I think it was Kong realizing that fashion sense is a thing. Because like, it just didn't really, like, it's funny. The octopus's design, to me, is brilliant, and it looks amazing, and it looks like just a giant octopus. Like, holy shit, you know, it looks great. Its fight with Kong, however, I think was severely lacking because, and you know, you might have noticed this, Tristan, it's a fucking octopus.
Yeah.
If you weren't aware, the fact it's a fucking octopus.
Matt, he threw rocks at him. What?
He throws rocks at everything, like, Tristan.
It felt like that was Kong's power. And other
throw
than
rock really hard.
Yes, exactly. Like if
well, because I feel like during the production meeting they shut down the fact that he would throw his own shit. They were like, can we shut that down real quick? And he was like, fine, rocks.
I really don't think that's what they were going for, but all right.
Well, that's monkeys throw things.
Yeah, well, Matt, Kong is an ape. There's a difference.
Tristan just acknowledged that King Kong is real. That's what he's trying to put out there.
Well, I think it was in the dub version, to be fair, but they even state that there's the distinction that Kong is an actual animal and that Godzilla was produced by radiation.
Oh,
but that's all they really said.
I didn't like that at all.
Yeah.
Because that confuses me completely. Because up to this point, the movies have been like, you could argue that he was produced by radiation, but by produced we mean like he was sleeping, and the radiation fucked him up, but it also woke him up.
Right.
No, in other words, it's not like Godzilla would have looked like that in prehistoric times. However,
no, that's
Godzilla
exactly how he would look, Matt. They even found skeletons of Godzilla, or what resemble Godzilla, in Japan. So there were Godzillas roaming the landscape in the late Jurassic.
You know why I'm mad at you? Let me explain why I'm mad at him, everyone. I thought he was talking about a specific plot point that I missed out of the 3 films. Out of 6 films, technically, because of all fucking dubs. So I'm sitting here, and I'm like, oh, did I miss that? And then he stops, and I'm like, oh, that's what he considers humor. Okay.
I mean, there was a point where they mentioned, maybe not in those exact words, but along those lines, oh, yeah, we found things that resemble Godzilla and fossil specimens in Japan. That was mentioned.
Fair enough. Yes. I just don't, but in this film, or was it another one?
Mm-hmm. In this film.
Oh, okay. Because my thing is just the idea of it being a monster made of radiation, but that was only in the dub, correct? Because that's what, it's just really throwing me off, man, because I'm like, I
believe so, yeah.
I don't like this. Okay, good. So it's just Americans fucking things up again. I was like, damn it all to hell.
Right.
Well, no, because, it really threw me off because of the fact that, again, it's not that he's made of radiation. It's not like, we dropped the bomb and then Godzilla was just born from a bomb.
Right.
No, Godzilla is, quote-unquote, a real animal.
Yeah.
It's even funnier, too, the dub would say that, because, the dub is the dub, in fact, that said, oh, no, yeah, he's a cross between these 2 dinosaurs. So dinosaurs aren't real animals? What?
No, dinosaurs were put there by Satan to...
Right, but does Satan not make real animals, too? It just confuses me. I'm so confused.
Right.
That octopus looked like it was fucking made by Satan. Something very interesting about the costume design, too, for Kong is that they kept him brown, which is actually, here's something very interesting about that. It looked like the original color was black, right, for Kong, in the movies, even though, of course, they were black and white. But then when it was drawn for posters, it was drawn with a brownish tint to it. And I think it's very interesting that they kind of kept that for this film, working off that, because, I believe this is the first time Kong was in color as well.
Color, right.
Yeah. And I see what you mean about the face. I just think that it looks it looks more silly than anything. Not so much like it needs touching up, like there's a production error. Just like, Kong, what is your face doing?
Yeah.
When he's drinking, the face they made for drinking Kong is definitely weirder, funnier, than they did for, standing around fucking shit up Kong.
Right.
Also, I don't know if it was on purpose with what they did with his fur, where, there's some balder spots on the back, or if it was, the the suit. I'm unsure.
I'm unsure as well, because I mean,
yes.
well, I don't know. Maybe they did. Maybe they didn't. I don't know. But like actual gorillas, you know, are not completely all over their body covered in fur. There are patches, at least in some species, that don't have fur. Like silverback gorillas, you know, don't have fur on their backs, or you know. So I don't know if they followed a template or not. I don't know. I won't claim to know what I don't know. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt.
Yes. Now, go to a place where we can't give them the benefit of the doubt. I mean, maybe a small one, but we kind of can't do it here. And I wanted to wait a while before talking about this because I didn't want to start off the podcast with, you know, talking about this again for a long period of time. Yeah. But we're still going to talk about it for a bit. The Islanders. So, them Islanders, Tristan. Now, here's the thing, right? Here's what's really funny, right? I don't know much about all of the extras in King Kong 1933. I don't know anything about them. But I'm going to argue that, like, when we saw that movie, we were like, that's kind of racist. And Japan was like, hold my beer.
Yeah.
Because, and here's the thing, people might not understand. Matt, why is that a problem racially, like, compared to the 1933? If you were complaining about that, right, why would you complain about that? Because here's the thing, right? First off, those were real black people. Now, I also don't know everything about every single extra in this movie either.
Right.
So I'm not going to say that none of them weren't part African American or part black, right? I would never say that they aren't because, again, I don't know every single one of them. And some of them, here's the thing too, right? The problem too is some people might say, well, come on, like, you know, if you were on an island for so long, you'd have a tan. Doesn't matter if you're black or white or Asian or whatever. Yes, you would have a tan. Some of them looked tan. Some of them I was like, you could just be tanned islanders. That's perfect. But then other ones, they definitely put, like, they really thicked on the blackface.
Yes.
And I'm like, this is basically just blackface. Sorry, everyone. Like 1963, blackface.
This is what we're going for. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I don't know, like maybe you feel the same way, Tristan. Some of them felt like they could just be like people who were on an island. You know what I'm saying? Like who just got tan.
Some of them actually felt like Pacific Islanders. Like they had that kind of skin tone. And that would have been fine. Like just stick with that. But no, like you can especially tell on the chief, it's like you really had to cake the makeup onto the chief, didn't you? It's like, guys.
And it sucks too.
Guys.
Because like all you needed was like tanning lotion. Like I know for some people they'd be like, oh, so making you brown isn't as bad. It's like it's bad, but it's achievable through being on an island and getting hit with all that sun. Right? Brown is achievable via, like, you know, it's like I know some people, like I'm sure like you've told me before, like you've said like, oh yeah, if I being you, were out in the sun, I would just be red, right? But I remember when you went to Africa, you eventually got more tan, like when you came back. The red can only go so far, Tristan.
Yeah.
So like, you'd be tan, but the difference, like you wouldn't be coming back from Africa and looking African.
No.
Like, no. Tristan is not black now. No. Tristan is not black now. No, it's not our. So that's why it's just like them living there with all that, you know, blackface. To me, it just came off as, oh, we're trying to do it like the original 1933 version. We come to an island and they're all black. The only difference is that because it's a locally sourced, low-budget production, you know, and this is Japan we're talking about here, they're all going to be Asian. In the same way that, like, everyone in the Attack on Titan, I don't know about everyone, but I know, like, the Attack on Titan live-action remake, people were a little confused because it was like, wait, they're all Asian. And it's like, yep, because they're making a low-budget movie, making a low-budget monster movie in Japan. They're going to be Asian. Not saying that African Americans don't exist or black people don't exist in Japan. Of course they do. White people exist in Japan too. Right? A lot of different people exist in Japan. Well, I'm sorry. Different people exist in Japan. Not a lot though. That's the thing. Because of Japan kind of having this closed border mentality for a while, I think you could have been able to find enough African American or black extras for that scene. I do. So I think that is on Japan. But again, it was just a lot easier to just be like, let's just take these 30 guys on the lot who were doing another movie at the time, probably.
Yeah.
And let's just put some makeup on them.
Yeah, I would argue that, like you said, they're already kind of changing up the origin story as it is. So they could have very much easily just made the island with Pacific Islanders. You know, it didn't have to be the same as it was in the 1933 Kong, you know.
Exactly. And that's what's really sad about it, because, like, we didn't, again, sometimes Japan, they're a little bit behind when, they're not ahead of the curve when it comes to stuff like this. So, like, it's just crazy to think that, like, we did that in 1933. And I'm not saying we wouldn't have done something like that in the 60s or 70s, to be fair.
That's
like,
true.
I'm not trying to say, like, oh, America was so great by the 60s. Like, no. No. It's just the thought that, like, we see it in 1933, and we're like, damn, that was crazy how they did that. And then we see it again 30 years later, and it's like, that's not, and it's not much better. In fact, in my opinion, it's worse, because as far as I know, again, I don't know if anyone was white and they were coated in blackface for King Kong 1933, but as far as I know, right, they were all African American or black. And to me, despite the fact that they were not, if they were not portrayed properly and they were portrayed as savages, which is still terrible, it's just the idea that, like, they were actual black people potentially getting work. Again, 1933, they probably weren't paid in anything, because not many extras were paid in anything at the time, regardless of race. But still, I do think that using black people is a step up from not. Just saying, putting that out there.
Yeah.
That's all. That's my comment on it. Now, let's see. So moving away from the island, the same way they did. Moving away from. Oh, you were saying that it wasn't as believable having a TV station or a company that owns a TV station trying to find their mascot going to an island to look for Kong.
I mean,
now,
they did.
Here's the
they
thing.
did own a TV station too, didn't they?
Yes, no, that's what it was. It was the pharmaceutical company that owned the TV station that was like, our not our sales, our ratings are not through the roof. They're in the gutter.
Right.
They're in the garbage. They're tanking. Why did you buy the show? Actually, technically, it wasn't the station. I think it was the show. Technically, the show isn't doing well.
That's why I got
this?
confused, because it was going back and forth about it, and the guy was just raving half the time. So I'm like, so what is your stake in this?
Exactly.
It being a TV station looking for a big monster to be like their kind of, I guess, golden ticket per se.
Yes.
To get ratings. That I can understand, but the way he acts is still reprehensible as well.
Right, and I really don't think they were expecting King Kong. I think they were expecting, like, some kind of tiger or some kind of, like, something that they were like, this is our god, and they're all like, whatever. I think they were all expecting that, but still something cool enough that they could capture and make the mascot. It was when they saw King Kong that it was like, this is not what we had expected.
And still went, we need to bring this back to Japan. And even the Japanese Navy comes in and says, the fuck are you doing?
That was the coolest thing. That might just be Japan trying to prove how cool they are. That might be, like, Japan being like, well, we would never let something like this through. But still, I think it was a really cool scene. Like, it was a cool addition, because it was kind of just like, you can't just, like, I feel like we, as a society, look at older movies and we let things go because we're like, well, they didn't have this technology at the time. And it's like, no, there's a fucking Navy and they stop ships, and if they see a giant fucking gorilla.
on a raft floating with TNT. They're going to ask some questions.
Like, their question wouldn't be, wait, are you Japanese? Yes. All right, go on through. No,
right.
They're going to ask a few fucking questions.
No, they just go. Is the giant gorilla on the raft, behind your boat, is he Japanese? Uh-oh.
Hi. All right, you can go.
Sure. Yeah. Kong desu. Oh, jeez. It's like, oh,
just wakes up Kong.
Yeah, sure.
Wakes up Kong. If they ask, you're Japanese. Hi, Kong desu.
Oh no.
Like, just all right, you played that well. Can I go now? No, that's TNT on
No, get out.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, it's
just like, oh,
that
you've
was...
studied. Oh, your Japanese is coming along. It's very good. No, you're still not coming in. Go back.
Oh my God. No, yeah, it would. I just felt it was very interesting that they had this television station thing. I mean, again, I guess the idea is TV stations doing very well at the time, 1963. What else did you have, right? So
right.
TV stations doing well at the time. Ours isn't. We were trying to invest in this, and now it isn't. Fucking hell, we need something. And then they didn't. But again, they didn't know that Kong would be the one that they'd be showing. So like they were just like, we just wanted like maybe, I don't know, just something cool, maybe a giraffe. And all of a sudden it's like King Kong. And then I love it so much. The guy who runs that division, not that company technically, but that division, he's just like, I love how eccentric he was. And I loved how he was just sitting there like, oh, we get King Kong, and everybody's talking about Godzilla.
Yeah. Godzilla, I've had enough. I don't want to hear any more about Godzilla. It's like, you realize he's basically left Hokkaido in a flaming wreckage right now, right? Do you not care at all?
I just love how eccentric he was, because the thing is, like, if he was stoic with it, he would just be a piece of shit. He still is, but he'd be like a real piece of shit. But like now, he's just like, it's really funny because he's just like, brah, and just and constantly flails around.
Yeah,
I feel like he added some needed comedy to the movie.
Yeah, I know that's what they were probably going for, but I don't know, it just came off as odd to me, because he's just like, oh, we need Kong for the sponsor, we got him. It's like, so that's what's going to put our TV broadcast, our TV station through the roof. We're going to be in business again, boys. And it's like, sir, Godzilla is rampaging through Japan again. Like, do you not, like, maybe, like, you seem to be a little bit older than the rest of us here. Do you not remember the first time he came through? Like, even as a young kid, you'd think you would have heard about this shit.
Yeah, no, that's why I don't like this. That's why I'm not a big fan of, like, the Godzilla section of. I mean, granted, look, I'm saying, they should have removed the King Kong portion of the, the origin, quote unquote. But at the same time, I didn't, minus the Islanders part, I didn't hate it. Right, like in my, yes, there's a little bit of like, I guess mental gymnastics you have to do, because it is still kind of strange that they sent him to an island. Anyway, but the point is that with the Godzilla side, I feel like there's no definitive, like, you're supposed to, like, in my head it's like, no, but Matt, he was in ice, now he's not in ice. He was in ice in the second movie. That's how they foiled him there. Clearly, this is just a continuation of Godzilla. But some of them speak as if like. Yeah. Like you said, like Godzilla's never been a thing.
Right.
Like they're hearing this name for the first time.
I would have felt they would have, like, Godzilla reappears and they all would have been like, wait, this guy just got a giant ape monster? Quick, throw it at Godzilla! Throw everything at Godzilla! Yeah, and
that
I
was
guess
more
towards
of the later.
Towards the end they do kind of do that, but at that point, they were just kind of like, yeah, I wonder, like, who would win? Like, oh, yeah, Kong's definitely going to win. It's like, what are you talking about? Kong can't beat Godzilla. It's like, don't talk like that.
Well, I look at it like this, right? It wasn't, like, it took, when I said later, I didn't mean later in this film. I meant, like, later films. Later films are definitely the ones that did stuff like that more, because not only did they kind of just want to get to the action, they also had more experience with it. So they were like, yeah, let's just do it like this. But here I think it was more like everyone trying to awe at the brilliance of Godzilla versus King Kong, more so than them thinking that the two will negate each other, at least upon first looking at it. But like in other films, when they have more sci-fi technology, but even that can't stop them, it comes down to, let's let the fuckers duke it out. Maybe we'll kill the winner.
Yeah.
Or we like Godzilla, and he's basically been saving us a lot with these other monsters. So let's wait for him to fuck some shit up. Like, even though I haven't seen a lot of older, well, it's funny, older compared to now, but newer than this, King Kong vs. Godzilla. I didn't see a lot of the later Godzilla films, but when I did see some clips, funnily enough, on Sci-Fi, we might have been watching the same ones, Tristan, before we even met.
Possibly.
Watching, some of the later ones on Sci-Fi, you could tell that was their like go-to. Like, well, we gotta get Godzilla on this shit. Like, you might as well have given him a fucking card that says like Earth Saver or some shit like that, like Earth Defender. Like, it's kind of like, shoot that one. No, wait, look at that. You see like a really small card in his hands. Yep, he's with us. Don't worry.
He's with the Godzilla Defense Force? It's like, wait, I thought we created that to destroy Godzilla. Shh, he's winning right now. But like those are the movies that I grew up with, so
yeah. And he was so good that he reclaimed the Godzilla Defense Force, and he is now the Godzilla Defense Force.
Right. And then at the end of it, he burns down Tokyo, and they're like, we're going to have to take that card back. Godzilla just looks down. Take it if you can. Good point. You have a good day.
I imagined him roaring, but with a sad look on his face.
Yeah, he just drops the card and goes back into the ocean. But
no, I it's funny though. It's like, that's such a rags to riches story, right? This organization was made to destroy you. Now you run it. Like, oh wow,
yeah, you guys turned his life around.
Anyway, I'm done. Anyway, I think that this was because it was the first movie of its kind, at least for Toho to make. It was a bit different. You know what I'm saying? Like,
there are a few kinks here and there that they had to work out, and they smoothed it out. Like, as you said, like in later films, they kind of get it down pat in a way.
Yes. By the way, Kong coming out of the water, fucking brilliant. I loved it so much. No, like just that first shot of him popping out.
Right, when they blew up the raft, and he pops back out of the water.
Even the shaky cam too. I was like, holy shit. Yeah, that was done very well in my opinion. Funny note. I didn't like when they did this in a dub. I kind of chuckled. The dub kept every Japanese line when it was the fake Japanese by the Islanders.
Right.
I thought that was very interesting. They were like, why dub them over again? It's already, fake anyway. So they kept it all in, and they also kept in the Japanese song on the radio. Oh, my God. I can't believe I almost forgot the radio and the smoking. Oh, my God.
Oh. Yeah.
Well, they gave them tobacco, Tristan. Isn't that how colonialism works?
I mean, it is. That's the problem.
That's the problem.
Oh, you are correct, Matt. That is why it's bad.
Because of tobacco and radios?
Well, all right. It's part of why it's bad.
Yes. And also, just before we move on, I just really had it hit me, because I always go to you when I'm like, Tristan, tell me how accurate this is. Usually we point at different years, and we're like, how accurate is it to see people living like this in that year? How accurate was it to see people living on an island like that, worshiping a god like that? Not Kong specifically, but worshiping a god like that in 1963. How likely is it, Tristan?
I mean, for real life standards, there were still villages in South America that we hadn't come in contact with till very recently. I believe, don't quote me, but I believe up until the 90s. Even early 2000, like they were only just discovered then, and they had been living in their village in the forests of, I think it was in Brazil. Well, it was in the Amazon,
and you, of course,
basically. And
yes,
they've been living like that for centuries.
And you say discovered by us, i.e., because I always love when you try to clarify and you're like, oh yeah, discovered by us, not like.
Right. Sorry, I mean discovered by the outside world. I'll put it that way.
Yes, no, of course. No, because you always say that, especially when we do the Indiana Jones podcasts, where we're like, oh my God, and you're like, yeah. But the thing is, though, is like, even though, you're like, oh, they may have not been discovered by us, they potentially weren't like that. Because that is a bit of a problem when it's just assumed. Yeah, it's just assumed that, oh, yeah, no, we haven't seen you yet. You're savages. And that term is not a term that you like. That they definitely use in the dub.
No. Yeah. No, that's not cool.
Yeah.
That's not cool at all.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, people will live based on their environment. And there's, like, it's more of an idea that's been up and coming in the last few decades, but, like, different civilizations are going to live differently. So it's like, just because they don't have skyscrapers or, clothing made of cotton, it's like, it doesn't make them any less people than another civilization is, like a big city. And they, like, in stuff like this, it kind of always feels like, oh, we have magic. Like, in the dub, when they hand him the radio, it's like, I have magic, and you'll be able to, like, make all the other chiefs shudder at your power. It's like, will you please shut the fuck up?
Okay, so I'm going to sound like a dick here. I actually like that line for only one reason and one reason only. In the Japanese version, it just seems really weird that he just hands him a radio. Like, I guess at the time, 1963, that's a really big achievement, something that you can carry around with you. But, like, also the fact that if you're on an island, that you're like, oh, it's undiscovered by us, whatever, then how the hell can you get FM radio?
Right, that's the other thing. It's like, and the biggest thing is, like, yeah, you're giving them these goods, like, okay, tobacco aside, because fuck that, but the radio, it's like, what use do they have for that in their daily lives? Like, yes, it's a luxury, but that's the point. It's like, it's not going to help them survive at all. So why would they care?
Yeah, but exactly. So at least in the dub, despite how terrible that line was, the rationale was sound. Hey, listen, if there are chiefs like you on this island,
I mean,
with
rationale
this,
in the
you will seem like a god to them.
Yeah, the rationale of the white guy not knowing how their organizations work, but...
Well, again, I'm not saying it's a good one. I'm just saying that it's still that rationale. You are 100% correct, yes. I'm just saying that the idea is, if there are other chiefs who do not know about technology, like you seem not to,
well,
if I give this to you...
technology. Right.
Well, yeah. Well, no, when I say, technically, I mean, according to the way they lived, we're just talking about this movie, spears aren't considered technology, right? Like, literally like that.
I mean, they would be tools.
They're considered a form of... Yeah,
it
tools,
would be a form of technology, yeah.
Oh, my bad, because I don't consider like hammers technology. I didn't realize that they can still be under the same umbrella.
Yeah,
my
technically, technology can be a very broad definition, so it gets tricky.
Okay, no. Oh, okay, fair enough. No, when I thought of technology, I was thinking of it like, like the technology that I have in my house, i.e. television,
you mean
computers,
like
laptops.
Right.
Sorry, yes, I was thinking of it. So so they don't have electronics on that island. That's what I'll use that term. So they don't have electronics. So the idea is none of you have electronics. None of you know what they are. Here you go. Right. You will literally be a fucking god right now. And the chief is like, all right. Sure. What's very interesting is they kept the Japanese song too, and it might have been for two reasons. One, they may have kept it because it was on the same track as all of the the fake language, so they couldn't cut it out completely if they didn't want to redub all of those gasps.
Yeah.
Or here's something that also might be very interesting. They may not have taken it out because the original company that licensed it to Toho might have been like, no. you need to keep that. Because
right.
Japanese music licensing is very interesting and is very, like, it doesn't, sometimes there, like, some of the companies that own these songs and own these music libraries, they're very strict.
Mm-hmm.
Strict to
right.
the point where, you know the anime Love Live, right? Or Love Live. I don't know which one is it. I'm pretty sure it's live because they do live performances. Do you know which one I'm talking about or no?
Okay. You don't know, may have heard of it.
Oh yeah, it's basically like a school's gonna shut down, and the three girls, because like it's funny in a sad way, like it's actually mirroring real life. Where in Japan, because of the lack of the low birth rate, certain schools have to close down because they're not getting admissions.
Oh shit.
So yeah, so their school's gonna close down, and they're like, we need to do something to kind of bring revenue into the school. Oh, let's start a club where we do where we're basically idols.
Right.
So we'll start an idol club, and we'll try to get revenue to the school in that way, and try to bring try to. So anyway, there was an English dub for Love Live, and you're like, oh shit, that's so cool. There's an English dub for this. Oh, maybe not you, but like you're like, all right, cool, it got dubbed, whatever. How did they dub the songs? They didn't.
Mm.
So imagine that. Like it starts off with everyone like, oh my God, we're gonna sing a song, Bobo Kendesh. It's like, wait, what? This is just
wait, what? Yeah.
Yeah, no. So they come off as weeaboos now, and so they come off as like complete Japan nerds. Like we're gonna do this all in Japanese and save the school. Anyway, the point is that the company
school
that made the song
no one can understand.
right? Yeah. No, but the reason why, you might be like, well, why didn't they take out the songs and either redub them or replace them with new songs? Because of the fact that the company that made the songs are like, no, we want to promote our idols who actually sang those songs. We want to promote our music.
Right.
You cannot redub this. Same thing with the newer Digimon movie that came out, Try. They couldn't dub Braveheart. So the English dub had, like, Show Me Your Brave Heart, like that whole song randomly inserted in there the way it was in Japanese, but they couldn't dub it over. So it was weird.
Right.
Like, Funimation usually pays up the ass, like just out the ass, just all this money to be able to dub over songs, for English releases. But they also have a very large budget. They know people, and they have a foothold in the industry. But I forgot what company licensed Love Live, but like when you license a show entirely based on music, sometimes the company's going to say, no, we want you to promote our music. That's why we want it over there. And it really muddies up the dub. So I am wondering if the company that gave Toho the license to use the song, they were like, no, if you're releasing this in America, you have to use that song. And American, producers were like, if that's all we have to do, whatever.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway, but yeah. So we talked about some of the some of the story aspects. Now let's talk about the fights themselves, because I have to say that I really laughed hard when I saw King Kong off the cliff and then Godzilla on it, and I was like I just hear Godzilla roaring, and all I hear is, "I have the high ground, Anakin."
I have the high ground, Kong. It's like he had just absorbed electricity and got hit by the lightning bolt, which is a whole nother I'm going to get into, but it's like, you underestimate my power! Don't try it! He just blasted him with atomic radiation breath.
The girl that he picked up, I forgot her name, that was Padme.
Oh, jeez.
This is Star Wars, man. That's all. Any and every story, it always ends up being Star Wars. It's like 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon, or just 6 degrees of separation. Anyway, yeah, I like the fights, but again, right? Just they like, I didn't like them as much as I wanted to. They were just kind of starting them out as a concept. But I think what I didn't like more so, right? Because here's the thing, right? We had 2 Godzilla movies before this, right? And we had other countless monster movies, so both in Japan and in America. So the idea of, we're going to show the monster twice before the big beatdown at the end, that's pretty cool. The problem here is that now that you've included two monsters, they have to tussle a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, they can't just sit there, look at it. Like, it's very pro wrestling in a way, where it's like, all right, show that one, then show that one. Then they're going to stare at each other menacingly, and then they're going to fight later. But here's the thing,
they're going
though,
to
right?
flop
and the main
around
event,
a bit.
Yeah, and then here's the main event, right? But the thing is that even in pro wrestling, before the main event, the two might actually tussle a little bit. Like, as a brief, like, kind of showing off what could happen.
Yeah. Right, to get you hyped for the actual fight.
Exactly. So here, I think they did a great disservice by having Kong throw that rock and the two of them yelling at each other and then just walking away.
Yeah.
Like, I think in general, they really needed to have more interaction between the two.
Right. Because it felt for me like, Kong throws the rock and Godzilla finally gets pissed off and he shoots his breath attack at him. And Kong's like, holy shit, that burns. And was like, nope, fuck this, I'm out. And, like, walks away. Because I was like, so that's the fight, right? Like, that's how this is going to go. It's like, obviously I didn't think that's how the fight was going to end. But it was like, really? He just runs. I'm like, I would too if I was shot with atomic fire breath. Like, I'm not going to lie. Like, I don't blame Kong for being like, nah, fuck that. But at the same time, it's kind of like, guys, I came here for a monster fight. I expect to have one. And we did.
And I do think, no, I mean, like, it's, apply it to any other movie, and it still feels weird. Like, let's say you have, or at least Japanese stuff. So, like, you have a Dragon Ball Z movie, and, like, Goku just stares at the main enemy, like, while transformed, like, while ready to fight, just stares at him, and then they both just fly away.
Yeah.
Like, yes, I understand the concept of, you can't give it all away at once, like, obviously you're building up to something bigger, and, you see that a lot in any movie, obviously, but definitely it becomes a staple, or, like, it becomes I don't say a trope necessarily, but, like, you see a pattern with Japanese films doing the same thing. It's just it's harder because, like, with these films, either you have someone like Goku who could transform at the drop of a hat, you have someone like Kong and Zilla where they're already at their strongest, like they're going to fight regardless. So, like, it's always a strange situation to kind of look at. What?
Kong had a transformation. He got lightning powers for whatever fucking reason.
Look, all right, it was stupid, but it was necessary.
No, I get it. It was. I know it was necessary because I'm gonna be real, like I was before. You don't send a giant ape to fight the fire-breathing lizard. I'm sorry. It's not going to end well for him.
Like, think of this situation, right? Serial killer trips on garbage, literally cushy garbage right in front of him, trips on it, bangs his head into concrete, dies. It was stupid, but it was needed. The exact same scenario. It was stupid, but we needed it to happen. Matt, why did he have to trip? I think it's just Kong tripping that really got to me. Like, that was done so poorly. That was the only thing in the movie, I think, that I really sat there and I was like, wait, this is the worst. And it's like, Matt, but the Islanders. No, that's worse in a different way. That's, that was the worst thing, the way Kong tripped. I was like, ooh.
It was just hysterical because, like, Godzilla is literally, like, beating him into the ground with his tail, and the other guy is like, oh, Kong's getting roasted, and he's like, oh, no, wait, there's an electrical storm. Don't worry, like, this is where he's going to get really good. Like, he's going to get more powerful. It's like, fucking excuse me?
Yeah, no, because here's the thing. I think that they accidentally conflated, because they were like, the dub technically did this in a way, but, like, the Japanese version still kind of, like, held to it in a way.
Yeah.
The dub was like,
he bit the power
Godzilla.
line and, like...
No, not that. It was more so like Godzilla is what is it? I think it was electricity is Godzilla's weakness. Now the dub is the one that brought it up, but the Japanese one didn't really do much to dispute it. It's funny. That one came out first.
Yeah.
They would never have known. No, but still, it's not like they said the exact opposite or anything against that idea, right? It's like, okay, Godzilla, not good with electricity. Okay.
In later later films, they kind of tease the idea that it's not that he's weak to it. It's more of like it deters him. He's like, I don't really like being shocked, but
I mean, that's standard, I think, for anyone.
Yeah,
Godzilla's like all of us in a way.
No, but that's the thing. That's why it was like we need to give Kong something that Godzilla doesn't like. So they gave him electricity.
And that's the problem. You can say bad for Godzilla. That doesn't automatically mean that it's good for Kong.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Like if I'm like Tristan, it would be really bad if I just chopped your head off. You're like, great, then chopping your head off might be your greatest strength. No. 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 You see what I'm saying? Like, no, I'm good, man. But yeah, so I think everyone sees just because it's weak against someone else doesn't mean it automatically has to make the other side strong. I don't thematically it's a good idea, but because it had to do with electricity, I wasn't a big fan of it. No. Like if there was something I guess maybe the thought is it wakes him up and in a way recharges your batteries, but he's not like Mecha Kong. Like it's funny.
Right.
Apparently they wanted to make a sequel with Mecha Kong. They basically wanted to be let's make a sequel with King Kong. Well, no, it was supposed to be let's make a sequel with King Kong. I think it was Paramount who owned the rights at the time said no. They were like, what about Mecha Kong? It was like, no, even the likeness of it would be hard to get to at the time. This was in the 80s and they wanted to do it. Oh, because they made, they made Godzilla 1985, or just Godzilla, I believe it was just known as in Japan. Anyway, so they made that at the time and they were like, let's remake Godzilla versus King Kong. And they couldn't make it, they sadly couldn't make it with King Kong. And they couldn't make it with Mecha Kong, but if they did with Mecha Kong, it would make sense that he would get hit with electricity, right? But still, you couldn't do that. And then that's what that movie it became Mecha Godzilla.
There you go.
Yeah, because they wanted to make it for the anniversary. Anyway,
right?
Because it was the 30-year anniversary at the time, Tristan. In our lifetime, Godzilla will be 100 years old.
And I'm pretty sure he'll keep going past that.
Oh yeah, he will. I mean,
anyway, the actual lizard himself. It's like I don't know how long that he is going to live. He could just be around forever.
Right.
No,
I really liked the suit work for Kong when they were zooming in and showing him holding her. And I know she was just a figure, but the way they moved the figure and dubbed her over, it really felt like she was actually in his hand. Like, I know it was fake, but
I know.
What?
I would argue that Kong 1933 still did that better.
No.
That's my opinion.
No. That
For
was,
me,
I mean, if I remember correctly. If I remember correctly, because they had the hand off screen, but they didn't have the body. So, in that regard, yes. But in other regards, they just had
even those
green screen.
Even those scenes where they transition back and forth between the actress being there and there being a model in his hand, I still feel like the movements that they did with the model were still more realistic looking to me than they were in this movie.
Well, that's what happens when you get a model
opinion.
versus having to... No, but that's what happens when you get a model versus having to have, a dude in a suit and also having blue screen. It was very interesting, their choice to use blue screen. Understandable because, everything is green around them, but, it was very interesting, their use of blue screen in a way that, you're sitting there oh, wow, that's a lot of blue on people. That's a lot of blue tint. There was a lot of blue tint in this. Like, if you had told me that the fourth monster was like a blue parasite, I'd be like, yes. Because there was a lot of blue in this movie, Tristan.
Right.
Yeah. But talking about the fights, as we try to wrap some things up, yeah, I really, I liked it. I will say that. I liked it. I would have wanted more, and I think that the electricity was weird. But again, we needed something to kind of give King Kong, just again, something, a little extra.
Fighting chance. Right.
Yeah. Because even though I feel like, but he has, what?
Go ahead.
I was saying, even though I'm like, but he has long arms. Still, yes, Godzilla is a radiation monster himself, and he looks like he's just normal and scaly at this point. But I'm sure grabbing him is not something you would like to do. Yeah.
So yeah, like the biggest thing for me is that King Kong versus Godzilla sounds like a great matchup. Two iconic monsters going to duke it out. That sounds great, and I want it to be great. When you actually look at them, like, think about it, them fighting each other, Kong is basically a giant gorilla. That's really all he's got going for him. Not a bad thing. Like, gorilla's, pretty tough, pretty strong. Unfortunately, when your opponent has a flamethrower as breath, it's not... He's got range on you, and you're just an upscaled living animal, and pretty much everything in the animal kingdom does not like fire.
Yeah,
so
I mean, the only thing, defend Kong.
The only thing I will say in Kong's defense, an actual matchup between Kong and Godzilla, I would argue that Kong has more maneuverability and a bit more dexterity with hands. So I'll give him
and that matters. Yeah, and that really does matter when, if you are because the thing is, if you up close, and if you are Godzilla, right, and you literally have the tiniest of arms and you're not facing because you can't really move your head, that's going to be a problem. Now, again, that's if you can grab Godzilla. If you can't grab Godzilla because, depending on what suit you're using, they're trying to say, no, he's scaly all over, or no, he's, he'll burn to the touch or some shit like that. Yeah, of course, Godzilla will win. But again, that also depends on,
spines.
What exactly, yes, the spine. That depends on, you look at Godzilla. You look at Superman versus Batman. You also have similar discussions as well, where it's just like, that's just a dude in a costume versus a god, essentially. And it's like, yes, but what parameters are you putting it into? Because obviously, yes, if Godzilla had opened up his mouth and had used his atomic breath while, right in Kong's face, while Kong was right there, yeah, you would burn your face off. But, again, that's the same reason saying, well, why doesn't Superman just punch a hole right through Batman? Because that's not how the fight's going to work.
Right, yeah.
Of course, if, because obviously, yes, Tristan, if there aren't certain parameters on, yeah, it's oh, well, Godzilla's just going to fire breath in Kong's face. And it's yeah, but then why wouldn't Kong, crack open his mouth the same way that Kong did to other dinosaurs?
Yeah.
So I feel like you could put it in either direction. Also, the fact that, it's not like Kong doesn't have the strength of an ape that large.
Right.
It's kind of sad that they just gave him... Yeah, it's kind of sad that they just gave him rocks to throw all the time. Because I would have liked to have seen him try to break Godzilla.
Yeah.
It was funny, though, having Godzilla basically, go, "You were a good foe. I will bury you now."
Yeah.
It was more so I'm marking my territory, or but it's just kind of funny to me. It's just you were a good foe, Kong. Sleep.
Yeah. You have earned your
it's
rest.
on mute right now. It's on mute right now as it's happening, and all I'm hearing is Ave Maria. So, but anyway, I want to say something before we wrap up. It is something you may have noticed watching both versions of the film. this was actually one of the worst. The film, the original film for this, was some of the worst preserved film in tokusatsu history.
Ooh.
And I'm sure you can tell based on how the cuts were and how certain shots look better than others, like a lot better than others.
Yeah.
And it's not, and it's funny because you just like me probably thought, oh, it's because of how they filmed certain things. That's all it is. No, if they had all of the masters, like the original shots, if they had them all in like good condition, preserved the way that they should have had them, then no, they wouldn't have been this bad. And that's what sucks about it. They should have looked a lot better than they actually did. But what happened was when people made different, in Japan anyway, when they made different cuts for different events, they didn't preserve it. They just like said, okay, so let's cut this and let's throw this away.
Right.
And to get some of the for the Blu-ray versions that you watched, one of them was Blu-ray. I don't know if the other one was the one that I showed you. The ones that we watched, right? It was so interesting because you kind of have this huge disparity between like certain scenes, like this really big gap in how like some of the footage looks, and that's because some of it was either lifted from the American Blu-ray, which was kept preserved, and other ones were lifted from like I think they were just like kind of like, oh, the footage is lost forever, but then they found it in like some TV station. Same thing with like Doctor Who.
Right, yeah.
If anyone doesn't know, a lot of the older, I think the first few seasons, so like the first 3 Doctors, there is a lot of missing footage because of people at the BBC looking at the footage and going, we don't need it. And granted, they didn't know it was a franchise at the time, it was going to be, but that's still pretty shitty that like the show would be lost completely because they had to save money and film other things onto those tapes. So, that footage would have been lost forever. Thankfully, they've found some, some either private donors or some, TV stations who owned their cuts when they aired that episode of Doctor Who. So that's kind of what they had to do for King Kong versus Godzilla. And that's how they were able to get some clips. But they obviously couldn't restore them to the same way that they did other clips. So that's why, like, certain parts of this fight scene, even, like, just this fight scene itself, certain clips have, like, a huge jump in quality. And I'm sure you noticed that in the film. And I don't know if it confused you at all. I don't know if you just kind of, like, chucked it away to, like, 1960s. But like, even some of the coloring, some of it is, like, more yellow than other scenes. And it's just fascinating to look at. To think like the movie was not preserved, it was preserved this poorly.
Yeah.
That one scene will look brilliant in Blu-ray, and then the next will just be really muddy.
Yeah, and I mean it makes me sad to hear that because like as much as I've said things against this, like I do still understand that this had its place in the timeline of movies, and it helped Godzilla become what it is today. And like I appreciate the fact that Godzilla has come this far, and I get to enjoy it even now, past my childhood, or even in my childhood. I just wanted to throw that out there too.
No. I mean, we've said what we said about this film, but in no way. I mean, it sucks because like with the $5 million budget being a lot lower than than one of the Godzilla movies that came before it, the original, I do understand why, some of the special effects weren't as good as I would have liked. And by the way, when I said special effects, I meant more like the suits fighting, and the miniatures. When it came to having like the green screen obviously was used poorly. But again, 1963, even if they had the original budget that they had from the original Gojira, I don't think the green screen would have looked that much better.
Right.
Like, some of the people running were really bad, but referring to, like, having Fumi just, like, being held in King Kong's hand, I don't think that would have looked better with the higher budget.
Yeah.
Yes. But you know, I just like I said, I agree with you. Right. I don't want to look at this movie and say it's the worst thing ever. I just stand by my point that I wish it would have been remade with a bigger budget or just as a sequel before. Like, I mean, think about it, man. It's been 50 years since this movie.
Yeah.
So now the new one is going to, you know, people are going to be like, you know, oh, my God, it's amazing. It blows it out of the water. And, like, I really wish I would have been able to see King Kong versus Godzilla in suits before we got to see it with, you know, complete CGI, you know, kind of remake.
Right.
Overhaul is the word I was looking for. But, hey, I mean, you know, I think the best symbolism, I guess maybe metaphor, if you will, for how I feel about this movie, how you feel about this movie, was King Kong shoving a tree down Godzilla's throat. I think that's how I feel about it. Maybe you feel the same.
Yeah, something similar. A little bit of indigestion, maybe.
A little bit, yeah. And let's dispel a rumor, by the way, because I know that there's this myth that I even believed as a kid. I'm pretty sure you did too, that we definitely have to dispel. There is no, in the Japanese version, Godzilla doesn't win.
Yeah. I mean,
yes.
It was a tie. Like it had to be. That's what it has to be. But
yes.
In my opinion, Godzilla would have won. Anyway.
No, I know you say he would have won, but however, we don't know where Godzilla went, and King Kong is riding off into the sunset. So you're sitting there, and like, but here's the thing, right?
Oh God.
No, I'm just trying to put it like this, right? The reason why I'm bringing this up, why is Matt bringing this up this way? Because there was this rumor for a very long time, and this rumor was definitely pushed by the fact that it was very hard to obviously see the original Japanese version in the 60s, 70s, 80s, right? But once the 80s came out, and I believe that, actually no, it was the 90s that they actually were able to come out with a VHS, or at least people were able to trade subtitled versions. Not sure if they were official or not, but people were able to trade subtitled versions of the original movie. That's when people were able to realize, oh man, right, this is actually like, you know, this isn't any different. Because the idea was, and this was a fan magazine that kind of, they wrote this wrong. What happened was in the American version, they removed Godzilla's roar. So that's what really gets me mad. It's like, your version removed the fucking Godzilla roar, and it kept the King Kong roar to kind of be like, yes, Kong won. In the Japanese version, they have both of them roaring, not to technically show supremacy, but to kind of show like, oh, it's like a bow to the audience.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
So apparently this fan magazine printed it as if like, oh no, in the Japanese version, Godzilla wins because you could hear his roar, making it feel as if like it was an entirely new ending, where Kong did not go into the sunset. It was actually Godzilla. And it made people think about this for years, with at least the roar aspect, maybe not so much the fully new ending. People thought that for years, and I think they still do. I remember my dad telling that to me.
Yeah.
I don't know if the same thing happened with your dad, but it's so interesting that, like, that thought was there when now we know, like, oh, wait a minute, no, like, you can easily buy the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, no, Godzilla does not win in the Japanese version. Again, at this point, Godzilla wasn't even a main franchise. This was his third movie.
Right.
So, anything you want to say before we, like, before I close things down? Anything you want to say?
I think we're good.
All right. We've said all we had to say about this film.
I think we can bury
this one. Thank you all for listening in. Yeah, we can bury this one. I want to thank you all for listening in, as always. I mentioned earlier about me sharing a picture of me actually holding up the original VHS tape that I have for Godzilla vs. King Kong, or King Kong vs. Godzilla. Now, I think I told you guys, I'd be sharing it through our social media accounts. Here's when I discuss them. So we have our Facebook, which is /ThoseGuysOnTheRadio, our Twitter, which is @ThoseGuysRadio, and our Instagram, which is /ThoseGuysOnTheRadio. You can also buy merchandise off of our main website, which is tgproduction.net/merchandise, or thoseguysontheradio.tumblr.com/merchandise. And you can get it over at our eBay, which is Those Guys Radio. A lot of T-shirts relating to our podcasts and our Let's Plays. What? You guys do Let's Plays? Yes, I do, disembodied voice. You can go get our Let's Plays, or you can go find our Let's Plays over at our Those Guys Play YouTube channel. Search up Those Guys Play to find them. Tristan and I have played a lot of different things. Haven't played Godzilla yet, but we're going to definitely rectify that in the future. However, at this moment, Tristan and I have played, we have Season 3 that's still running by the time this podcast comes out. And Season 3, Tristan and I have actually played Dragon Ball Z Budokai. And we actually expanded on that. We brought it, because that's what we do with Those Guys Play. We start things over, usually in Those Guys Play season, whatever it might be. And then we bring it into Those Guys Play Dragon Ball Z, right, its own little playlist, where you and I have played Dragon Ball Z Budokai, Dragon Ball Z Infinite World, and another Dragon Ball Z game that's coming out most likely this month. It should be. Now, again, you're like, how would I know when they're coming out? Well, social media accounts. Mentioned that earlier. Also, a podcast, right? Assuming that you're listening to us right now, right? I assume you are. Hi, you're here. If you're listening to us right now, you may be listening to us through our backlog shows over at our YouTube channel, Those Guys on the Radio. You search up Those Guys on the Radio, find us there. Or you might be listening to us through our Blog Talk Radio account by searching up / Those Guys on the Radio. Or through our iTunes, that you searched up Those Guys on iTunes and found us there. Many different ways to find us, but you did, and we're happy you're here. All right, everyone, so we want to thank you for listening in, and hope you have a good time. Hope you have a good night. It's funny, this is coming out at night, Tristan. I had forgotten that because of when we're recording this, but Tristan, this is coming out at night. So, say good night, Tristan.
I wish I could do a Godzilla roar, but I can't, and I won't expose
you. You too. Okay, because I was right. Because if you were going to do Godzilla, I'd be like, ooh, ooh, ooh. Yeah. And we would have ended it like that. But all right.
And I'm buried in the earth, and you swim out into the sunset, back to your island.
I can't swim. I can't swim. I'm dying. I'm just drowning.
Gorillas can't
look at
swim
him.
either.
Well, he didn't swim. He was tall enough to walk.
He was swimming.
Oh, okay. It looked like he was just walking naturally because he's so large.
No.
Oh, okay. It's really here's the thing. It's really funny. Good night, everyone. Good night.
Good night,
you're not going to get me to the discussion. No. Good night. Good night, everyone. Hope you had fun. Good night.